Okay, so we've got a high silver Moira main here. Let's see
Group
what
up
you
with
got,
me.
Sylveon.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right,
Attackers
so I just want to talk
incoming.
about this first.
Defend
Um,
objective A.
King's Row has what I call Widow's Perch right here. Now imagine there's a Widow sitting right here. Guess what's going to happen to your Brig? Get shot right in the head. Brig has armor, so I'm not sure off the top of my head if Widow can one-shot her, but between a single full-powered headshot and then a quick follow-up shot, your Brig's dead. So never, ever, 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 ever do what your Brig is doing here. Ever. Like, ever. Even what your tank's doing is a little bit aggressive. Your tanks can't get one shot by the Widow, but that's very risky. Until you know for certain they don't have a Widow or a Hanzo or something, then you can play a little bit more aggressive like this. But um, what you're doing is fine. Your Junkrat actually isn't in a terrible position. Where you're at is fine. You're out of line of sight of the enemy Widow, if there is one. Um, So good starting point for you. Your team not so much.
Join with me.
Barrier unstable.
Repairing the damage.
So your orbs are on a pretty quick cooldown. So when you use them like that, use them as quickly as you possibly can. So if you're going to throw a damage orb, actually hold right click before you press E, and then right click E, it will instantly launch it. Same thing if you're throwing a healing orb, left click and then E, and it will instantly launch it, or whatever you have your orb key bound to. Mine's E, whatever standard default. And it is on a relatively short cooldown, so you can be throwing those damage orbs out left, right, and center. Um, However, you do have a Brig, so you are considered the primary healer, so you do need to maintain your team's health. However, something like this, very, very easy. As soon as you see that Reinhardt start to walk around this corner, what you do is you line your crosshairs up kind of with the edge of the bus here, and you throw in a damage orb. And what's going to happen is the orb is going to go through Ryan, going to go through Winston. It's going to bounce off this bus and then go this way. And you're going to get a lot of ult charge on that because it is going to hit everyone, and you're probably going to get full damage off it. Absolutely worth it. 100% worth it. It'll help build your ult very quickly, and that's where Moira's power comes in right now. Is the fact that she can do so much damage and the fact that she can heal so much, she can get her coalescence pretty much every fight. And then you can use coalescence basically like a cooldown, and you just use it as you get it. Provided the team fight isn't already completely lost. So yeah, so basically be a little more decisive with your orbs. This heal orb was not needed. You only have your soldier that's low on health. He dropped his heal pack. You have Brig around. You can just heal him up. Like he's not in immediate danger of dying. Your team isn't being really pressured here, so I don't think you're going to get a whole lot of value out of this heal orb. I think you would have gotten more value out of throwing a damage orb through there. Um, Keep in mind too that your healing is it's a resource based, right? So you need to do damage in order to restore those healing resources. And so when you throw in a damage orb like that, sure, you're damaging the enemy, you're tickling the enemy, but more importantly is you are recharging your healing resource, which will allow you to heal more. And that's where the trick with Moira is learning that balancing act between healing and damaging. And when you watch the really, really high level, the pro streamers play Moira, it's kind of brain dead gameplay, but basically they click right click. They spend more time trying to do damage than they do left clicking because um, your left click does have like an initial healing, and then it also has a heal over time effect. So what they'll do is they'll kind of feather left click and then right click so to damage, restore their healing, heal a bit, damage, heal, damage, and they'll kind of go back and forth like that pretty quickly. And that's how they maximize Moira's effectiveness. And so that's where you kind of have to figure yourself out as Moira. You could spend the entire game doing nothing but healing, and you might get 30,000 healing in a game. Possible, I've done it like once or twice, but if you don't provide other value, if you don't provide other support as a support, you are not going to climb. You could out heal everything, but if you don't use the other parts of your kit, you are going to hit a skill roof where you're just not going to be able to climb above that because you are not utilizing everything in the support's kit. Moira is first and foremost primarily a healer, yes, but she can also do a terrifying amount of damage because her ball goes through shields, her coalescence goes through shields. It is one of the most effective ways to kill down squishies like enemy Genjis, things like that, or low health targets is securing a kill, things like that. But all that long rambling was basically me saying not the greatest heal orb.
Get into position.
Yeah, you see now you didn't get full value out of it. You got maybe 100 healing out of that, maybe, and now it's just going to fly up into space. So you wasted a 9-second cooldown, um, getting 100 healing. You know, at that point, toss a damage orb in there because it's going to hit everybody. You're going to get full value out of that. You're going to build your ult very quickly. Not much you could have done to save your soldier there. He just got deleted. Fade away. Yeah, that's good.
This is my win.
So I see what you're trying to do there. You're trying to put pressure on the Junkrat, but again, it's a low value orb, right? You did a tiny, tiny bit of health to him, right? You tickled him, and then he just ran away from your orb. So this orb now is going to bounce off into nothingness, and you're not going to get a lot of value out of it. So that's the first thing I'm noticing is that you're not getting a lot of value out of your orbs. And so here, this would be an okay spot to throw a healing orb because you've got a couple people on fire. Your Brig is playing hyper aggressive and is on low health. So here you could throw in a healing orb. It's going to offset the burn on your Sigma. It's going to heal up your Moira. You know, that'd be an okay use of it. This Junkrat's going to be an issue. So yeah, absolutely, you need to back away from him. Try to hide around car or something. But you guys are being flanked now. You're down a couple. This fight is not looking too good for you guys right now. Honestly, not too much you could have done there. Your soldier got picked early.
When faced with a setback, we must challenge.
Just turning the in-game volume down so I can actually hear myself. Yeah, so not a whole lot you could have done there.
Objective lost. My will made real.
I'm okay with that. You know, that's it's bound to hit a lot of people. You can see it getting ticked there, and by the time they re-engage, you'll have orb off cooldown. So I see what you're trying to do there. You know, you kind of bounce it off the ground to try and get yourself to heal more. You did call for healing. At that point, just go get the health pack. Don't waste your orb. It's good that you're healing yourself, but you had the health pack available, and that would have healed you up to full. Have to be kind of, again, that's a low value orb. You healed yourself 100 health, and then the orb just bounced off the ground and up into nowhere. You know, at that point, you could go into library or the bookstore right here, and then point it at the ground, so that way it'll kind of bounce off the roof and whatnot and stay in there for a little bit, or you can try to bounce it off one of these windows. It's going to bounce off in weird directions because these aren't completely straight, but yeah, it's just another low value orb. That was a better orb. Your team is being pressured there. Again, you know, you kind of you bounced it off the ground there, and that's okay in some situations because you know you are going to get that longer tickle effect. But again, you know, you kind of almost look straight down when you do that, so it bounces here and then it bounces up. If you're going to do that, look down and a little bit farther away. You know, the idea is you want to aim at the feet of the intended target, right? So it comes down this way, bounces off at their feet, then goes up and away this way. Generally speaking, though, again, that was a better orb. Yeah, we'll see. Let's see what happens here. Brig. Fuck.
I am the champion. Get into position.
Another low value healing orb. Healed yourself in Junkrat. I guess it wasn't the worst one, but you almost faded into Ryan's charge there. That was close.
Time for a competitive lunch.
So your team's dead here. You need to be careful.
My riptire is charging.
Yeah, that's a good damage orb. Good coalescence here. So I was either a little bit late or a little bit early on the coalescence. So you know, when you threw your damage orb into their Brig and Zen there, I would have coalescence there because then you could just chase down their Zen and their Brig, and it's a huge stagger, right? You get 2 easy kills on them, and there's nothing, not a damn thing they can do to save themselves, right? Zen is a very good target for your coalescence because he has no escapes, he's got low health, he just gets deleted. Um, the other thing with Coalescence is you always want to pair it with one of your orbs, right? So in this case, a damage orb would be good. You had, you know, when you launched it, you had 2 seconds left on your orb cooldown. So what you could have done is just held off those 2 seconds, threw out a damage orb, and then instantly pressed Q and started coalescing. And so then you get the coalescence damage, which is something stupid like 100 damage per second. I can't remember off the top of my head. But then you also get the damage from the damage orb. Same thing if you're using coalescence to try and like heal through a grav or something like that. Throw out a healing orb and then coalescence. Right? You always want to coordinate your orb and your coalescence. Focus down that Zen. Yes, good. Focus down the Rhine. Kill the Rhine. Kill the Rhine. Kill the Rhine. Kill the Rhine. Good job fading away from the tire. Throwing a damage orb. Again, you would have gotten more value out of your damage orb there instead of your heal orb. That was a better heal orb because you were pressured. But now you have no charge. So a little trick with Moira's charge. So you know you restore your healing resource with your right click. However, the way it works is when you right click, there is an instant jump and then a small build up over time. And so basically, if you right click rapidly, you are going to restore your healing resource faster than if you just held right click, because basically all it's recording is that initial little jump every single time. And so what I have is I actually have my right click also bound to my scroll wheel. And so um, when I need to restore my healing resource, I just have my finger on my scroll wheel and I just do this. If you can hear this, right? I just go. No, I can't really hear that, unfortunately. But basically, I just scroll up and down as fast as I can, and every single click counts as a right click. And so that's just a very, very fast way to rapidly hit your right click and restore your healing resource. However, it does less damage than if you were to just hold right click because you are constantly stop, start, stop, start, stop, start, right? So if you need to do damage, just press and hold right click. If you need to restore your healing resource, I recommend also binding your secondary fire to your scroll wheel. Or, I mean, if you're on console, I don't know what else you can do there, but if you're on PC, absolutely just bind it to your scroll wheel, and that will help your healing resource restore faster. But um, one thing I am noticing here too is that you are focusing very heavily on healing, which is good. Um, you know, I tend to see a lot of like DPS Moiras in the lower elos, but again, Moira is more than just a heal bot. Moira is a support character, and every single support hero in the game has utility that they bring. You know, Anna has her anti-nades and her sleep darts, Brig has shield bash and whiplash, Lucio has his boops and his speed boost. Moira can either heal things or damage things. And so, like any other support in the game, if you neglect the rest of their kit, like I said, like I was explaining earlier, you are not using the healer or the support rather to full effectiveness. So you're going for a lot of these heal orbs that aren't getting a lot of value. They're healing 100 health maybe and then just flying off into nowhere. When you could probably just very easily heal that up with your left click and then throw one of your damage orbs into the enemy team and get a lot of value out of that because you will burn through the entire orb as opposed to it just hitting 1 or 2 people and then flying off, not doing anything. And so that will help build your ultimate faster and then allow you to use coalescence every fight. Fade away from this. So another thing there too is you almost always look down, and I understand what you're doing, right? You're trying to get that angle so it bounces off the floor and goes back up. But like when you're trying to escape, turn around and throw your orb in the direction that you are escaping. See, that was a good orb. Your team was low health, and you got almost full value out of that, right? That was better. That was a good use. So here, I would be throwing a damage orb into this. So that's the other thing you have to think about when you're throwing your damage orbs is where the enemy team is and how can you get maximum value. So right there, you threw it straight forward at an enemy Winston, right? Winston has all kinds of mobility, so when he starts to get threatened, he can just like jump up and away from it. What I would have done instead is got Brig? Yeah, Brig. This left room here, and the rest of their team kind of hiding behind the cart. So what I would have done there is kind of angled it at this wall behind cart. And so that way it would hit Winston. Winston's going to jump up and away, but then it's going to bounce off this wall here, like bounce off cart and kind of hopefully hover around the cart here, so that way it'll damage people. Or you could have poked through here and just threw it into this room, and it'll take some weird bounces off the curved walls in here, but hopefully it will stay in this room and just constantly damage this Brig. There's honestly nothing more terrifying than being trapped in a small room with a Moira damage orb, especially if you hit roll health. Unfortunately, your Brig's going to die here because, a rallying Brig is immortal. But so when there's also, to help manage your resource, when there's not really much going on, don't hard left click. Again, Moira has a heal over time effect, right? I think it's 65 health over 4 seconds. So when there's a bit of a lull like this, just allow your heal over time to take full effect, right? So just left click, and it will, 2 or 3 left clicks, and it'll heal up Junkrat to full health there. Here you can hard heal or your Brig or for a little bit. Again, keep in mind that Rally is going to give her a lot of armor, so you don't really have to worry too much about hard healing her. You can just give her a couple of squirts, I guess is a bad way to put it, but on your Brig, so she regains a little bit of health, but then her rally armor is going to kick in, and she should be okay. Yeah, so now you're almost out of resources, and it's almost the start of next team fight. So again, there with that damage orb, the enemy team spawn is over here. They're all going to be walking this way, so it was good you used damage orb there. I would have walked out just a little bit further to try and throw my orb down this direction, right? So it goes towards their spawn, and it's going to hit everybody, right? Because right now your orb's going this way. It hit a little bit on their Brig, sure, but now it's getting no more value. But if you had thrown it down this way, it's going to hit everybody, right? And you're going to get a lot of value out of it. So always think when you're throwing damage orb, where is the enemy team? Where are they gathered? Where are they grouped up? So I can get the most value out of my damage orb. Here, damage orb, kind of right behind that Ryan. Throw an orb, throw an orb, throw an orb. Use that thing on cooldown. Again, combo your orbs with your coalescence. Throw an orb into, yeah. That was good though. That was good use of coalescence. Just remember to combo those and just work a little bit more on aiming your damage orbs. That was good. That was a good damage orb. Get a huge... Look, see? Look at that. I just want to point that out. So there, use your damage orb. Look at your ult charge, right? You used a full damage orb, and that your ult charge just jumped up to almost 50%, and you just used coalescence, right? So now imagine if that happens every single time with your orbs, right? You gain so much ult charge off those. You have to be very smart at as to how you use them. But yeah, see, that's a good orb, huge ult charge. Imagine what happens when you do that every time. And then you get coalescence every single fight. I would have damage orb there. Again, more value than your heal orb. I bet you have damage orb. I bet you if you had used your damage orb there, you would have gotten your ult. Okay, so I bet you probably could have gotten Coalescence there if you had thrown out a damage orb instead of a heal orb, although you almost have it now. They burned a lot of ults to win that team fight, so I'm not sure Coalescence would have made a difference. So your Coalescence is kind of all over the place. When you have Coalescence, its effectiveness comes from being able to burn down targets like through shields and all that stuff. So you want to try and find a squishy and stick with it. So
Surrender to my will.
right here, the first thing I would have noticed is my Tracer is low. Because it's a Tracer, she heals up very quickly, but then you start healing her, and then you look over here and you're like, oh look, I've already damaged the Zen. I'm going to start burning down the Zen. Oh look, and right in that line is also their Ashe, right? And so then instead of trying to burn down their tanks, you burn down their Zen, their Ashe, you clean up 2 kills, you guys win this team fight. Easy, right? So with Coalescence there, you kind of just shot at everybody and everything, doing a lot of damage, but not focusing down targets. So with Coalescence, kind of pick a target, pick a squishy, focus them down, burn them down. Unless, of course, you're like shooting into a grab, in which case just go. Here you're focusing Winston, that's all fine, he's low health. Damage orb. Ryan. Not much you could have done there to save your Ryan, you tried. So Zen is a very high value target for your Coalescence because he has so much utility with his damage orbs, and I think if you had managed to, even if you managed to kill their Zenyatta, you probably could have won that fight because your their Zen's Discord orbs just came in pretty clutch there, and they were able to burn down your tanks very quickly. So after that first round, the biggest thing I'm noticing is that you're just kind of throwing your orbs away, as I've been explaining throughout this, and not getting a lot of value out of them. So the trick when to use heal and when to use damage is you use heal when you're kind of in panic mode and you need to heal everybody up very quickly. Other than that, assuming you guys have like a shield or a decent secondary healer, like even Brig can help, just throw in damage orbs, right? You can use your primary fire to hard heal through a lot of things. And of course, because your damage orb will also restore your healing resource and allow you to heal up a bit more. Same thing with your heal orbs, right? Is you want to make sure when you throw them out, you get maximum value from them. Because when you use them to full, like I think you can almost build a full Coalescence with 2 healing orbs, 2 full healing orbs, or 2 full damage orbs. Right? They are your main source of ult charge, so you want to be very efficient as to how you use them, right? When you're using healing orbs, you shouldn't really have to look down at your feet to try and get maximum value out of them. You should be able to kind of just throw them into the middle of your enemy team, and they should be your team should be able to get full value out of it, I guess. It is good that you're kind of trying to use geometry of the map, of the ground, to maximize the amount your ball hits its intended target, I guess. But don't ever use it just to try and heal up one target. It is a lot of quote-unquote burst healing for multiple targets, right? It can heal anybody within its range, so you want to make sure that you are getting full value out of it. Same thing with damage orb. Think about where you're shooting it, think about where the enemy team is, where they're going to be, and try to hit as many people as you can with it. Try to shoot it into a spot where it might bounce off some walls and use up the entirety of the ball, instead of just tickling 1 or 2 people and having it fly off into middle of nowhere. So now you're playing Mercy. Zen Mercy is not great right now. Mercy is no longer considered a main support. She is, or I would classify her as a flex support, simply because she doesn't have the raw healing output that the other mains do, Moira, Baptiste, and Anna. Um, they all can focus down targets. They all output more healing than she does. They all have AoE heals. Um, so your team has considerably less sustain right now. And I know why you're going Mercy, right? You're going Mercy because you've got the Pharah and the Bastion, so that's fine. Pocketing Pharah, Pharah kind of needs the pocket to be effective, and a pocketed Pharah is absolutely terrifying, especially in the lower ranks when people's aim is not that good. So you're under much less threat from like the enemy hit scan. Although as you climb, hit scan gets better, more efficient. The enemy teams in general will get better dealing with Pharahs. But I'm not a fan of the Mercy Zen combo anymore because you're basically running two off healers or two flex healers supports. Sorry, not healers, but um, you guys have potential for a lot of damage. So the way that this comp is going to work is basically you kill everything before they have a chance to heal it. The good news is that they're running Zen Brig, so Brig does a decent amount of healing, assuming she has her Inspire up. So if you manage to burn their Brig down, you guys win this fight, because then they have no way to sustain through all the damage that you guys can do. I mean, you guys have a ridiculous amount of damage. Actually, honestly, this is a very interesting comp. It's very blitzy. So what I'm hoping you guys do is Bastion can set up somewhere, and the rest of you guys just push in and try to kill things. Kill up your Zen. Definitely spend most of your time pocketing the Pharah. Although your Pharah just left you to die. Oh, that was bad. I don't know what your Pharah was doing. I don't know how she she just didn't manage her fuel, I guess, and then just dropped down right here. And when she does that, don't follow her. Don't do that. If she had stayed up in the air here and fired, fine, but for whatever reason she dropped down here and left you to die. She essentially killed you. But rule of thumb for support, don't kill yourself trying to save a teammate, because chances are you're just going to kill both of you. If your teammate does something stupid and ends up in a compromised position, there's nothing you can do. Pocketing the Bastion here is fine. Go for the Roadhog. Oh, okay. Yep. So, as a Mercy, always communicate you're going for a res. You had a Roadhog there and your Reinhardt was almost back. So what you could have done there is just said, hey, can I get some protection? I'm going for this res. And as a Roadhog, this Roadhog can even just stand here and body block, right? Ideally, you want the Reinhardt's shield, but while you're rezzing, the Roadhog can just jump in front of you and eat those shots, because he has self-heal, he has 600 health, he's very hard to kill. But yeah, you just went in there right in the open and managed to get the res off, surprisingly, but you died doing so. That was a very, very risky res. Always communicate you're going for a res. Always say you're going. Always ask for cover or some kind of protection. The other thing too is where Zen died, you probably could have flown over here and gotten the res off behind this corner, kind of thing, and been safe. So it was just it was a good res to make. You just executed it poorly, right? You were in a bad position and you didn't ask or get any kind of protection. Looks like your Reinhardt tried to jump in front of you, but he just didn't move or wasn't able to get there fast enough. So unfortunate.
I must go where I'm needed.
So you should be calling for a regroup now. Your team needs to push in a 6. You can't win this like 3v6 that you're fighting here. This Moira needs to die. She is going to aggro. That's just unlucky. You can res one of these. That's okay. You're close enough to spawn that res wasn't needed, but you could. You know what? I'm okay with this Valkyrie. Valkyrie is good to initiate team fights with, although your team is doing nothing with it, which is unfortunate. So Valkyrie is not like Coalescence or Transcendence or things like that. You can't really use it for sustain. It is best used when you're initiating team fights, because basically what you can do is when you push in as all 6, you then activate Valkyrie, and then you damage boost everybody, and all of a sudden everybody's doing 30% more damage, and that is just terrifying, right? And then, of course, you can manage healing as the team gets low, but another thing to note is that when you're Valkyring, a lot of the time it is just better to damage boost than to heal. If one teammate gets low, you don't need to switch to heal everybody just to save one teammate. If that teammate dies, so long as you keep damage boosting, your team keeps on getting kills, and you keep up that momentum, it's okay to let a teammate die, you don't have, because basically you get more value out of damage boosting 4 people than you do out of healing 1 person, right? So, you can always res them after the fight, or if you win the point, then it doesn't even matter. But that was a good Valk. It's just unfortunate your team didn't push in with it. Although, I guess they kind of did. You need to...
Tranquility.
Zen, no. So that was an absolutely horrible Transcendence by our Zenyatta. Transcendence can counter a lot of ultimates. Tire is not one of them. A Tire does burst damage. Excuse me, does burst damage. Transcendence does heal over time. So the burst damage happens instantly. Transcendence cannot out-heal that level of burst damage. So Tire does what, 300 or 400 damage, something like that. So you're dead regardless if Tire decides to explode on you. Sure, Zenyatta's immune to Tire when that happens, but yeah, that was a horrible Transcendence. And now it would be nice to have Transcendence while their Soldier is ulting, because Transcendence can out-heal that. Oh, don't go for this res.
Science will reveal the truth.
So you're back on Moira, right?
You seem in need of aid.
You don't need to hard left click there. Again, heal over time. We'll be able to heal them up full. Your Reinhardt just got absolutely deleted. There's just nothing you could have done to save him there. Your Reinhardt should have waited for your team. Fade back to spawn, yep. Save your healing resource, throw out a damage orb or something to try and restore.
This is my win.
So again, one of those things where you want to come to this side of bus to throw your damage orb, because you can throw it this way, hit everybody. Where you were, it hit Reinhardt, and then is gonna just bounce around in here and do nothing.
60 seconds. Injured again.
Tracer got a huge pick. So you can actually use Fade to get out of that. Assuming your reaction time is fast enough, that is a very good use of Fade. As soon as you hear Hammer, just hit Shift, right? Or whatever your Fade key is bound to, because you can escape being shattered, and then you'll be up to heal your team through the shatter.
That changes my thinking.
30 seconds.
This will heal you. Surrender to my will.
Don't Coalescence when he uses Tire. So, again, you can use Fade to try and bait out Tire. So when you see Tire coming for you, if you time it properly, you can fade away from it or fade away from the explosion. You have to kind of predict when he's going to explode, so it's a little trickier. But never Coalescence when he uses Tire like that, because then all of a sudden, if I'm Junkrat and I hear Coalescence go, my first thought is, all right, I'm gonna go take out that Moira because that is a beautiful tire, right? That is a good use of tire to cancel out coalescence. I think your thought process there, it looked like you were trying to kill the tire with coalescence, but that's not an easy thing to do. So just don't coalesce when he uses tire. Wait until after tire and then coalescence.
The objective is mine.
New beginning. New thinking.
Defeat.
Okay, so at the end of all this, I think the biggest thing that you need to work on is getting, as Moira, is getting value out of your orbs. As I explained multiple times throughout the video, when you're throwing out your damage orb, which honestly you should be doing a lot more, try to make sure you throw it out in a position such that it will hit as many opponents as possible. When you do use heal orb, your heal orb should be used kind of as panic, burst healing, instant, we are in the middle of a team fight and everybody needs to stay alive kind of thing. Other than that, just throw out damage orbs left, right, and center. Moira is more than just a heal bot. Supports are more than just heal bots. You need to use the other parts of their kit. What happened there? But anyway, yeah, positioning wise, actually wasn't terrible. You know, for the most part, you stayed behind your tanks, which is good. Um, Play around cover, you did pretty well with that. So, um, as Mercy, wasn't a whole lot of Mercy that I saw. The only thing is that you went for a high risk res. You managed to get the res, but because you were in a bad position when you started the res and you didn't really ask for help before you resed, you got killed doing so. So it didn't really work out in your favor. But yeah, don't focus so much on healing as Moira. I know, especially in the lower ranks, you get flamed for being a DPS Moira, but so long as you're not in their backline trying to like 1v1 while your tanks are fighting on the front line, just throw out damage orbs more often than not. It'll help build your ult very quickly. And honestly speaking, as Moira, assuming you're alive for most of the time, you should have coalescence pretty much every fight, just because of the damage and healing that you can do.